Hey, family. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so we're going to try to finish up. We're not going to try. We are going to finish up chapter 96 and 97. But we're going to be reading from the Megillah. And the last video was about Gibaya. It's so pretty. I'm really loving these words because they're from the cherubim. These are angelic words. And they are fire. I can't stop saying them. They rattle my whole chest. I love it. But what I wanted to say was that this is pretty awesome. And I wanted to thank everybody and welcome everybody, all my new subscribers, and I wanted to thank all my subscribers and everyone who's been here for this past year with me riding through this fantastic voyage. I tried to read a little bit of this to my family, but to my siblings, not to my children. They're all they have no choice, my kids. But my siblings, my brothers and sisters, I try to share some of this with them, and we're just not there yet all the way. But I'm still dropping little gems and jewels, and it would just be so nice to fellowship. And I am fellowshipping with you guys, so that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for your support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. This stuff is heavy. I mean, I have to get it off my chest. You see this stuff, right? I think that was all. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say. After I did the goodbye story, the video before this one, I had a little revelation. Like, because I've always, I have a Christian background, if you can't tell. Was raised in the church and studied my Bible hard, especially when I started having children, because I wanted to give them answers, like answers no one ever gave me. So that was my whole thing. And then, um, but I was a hardcore Christian. We didn't do Easter. I never let my children look for eggs because I didn't understand it. I just, what I was gleaming and learning, Ishtar and all that, and pagan and everything. So I was hardcore. So we never did that. But I always wondered, like, the more I learned about spring and the seasons and the natural world, I could see that, oh, yeah, this is a fertile time of year. But boy, oh boy, did I not know this story that Yahshua and Miriam conceived a baby the night before the crucifixion. That's the fertility rituals. That's what it's all about. I just wanted to say that I'm not for any of that stuff or supporting any of that stuff, those that they do, that the church has practiced today, in the modern world. But I'm just having an inner standing and an overstanding of what the whole thing that was deemed pagan fertility rituals or rites. Now I understand maybe why this ceremony was done every time during this year. And the eggs and the rabbits and it's fertility. It's all about fertility. It's all about the mother, Jannah, conceiving a child. And it was done as probably a memorial, as commemoration or something like that over the years since that time. And then, when the church got in control and spreading all over the world, they stopped all that stuff and actually they demonized it so that as I was a Christian, I thought it was evil. So I didn't even look into it. I just avoided it. And I didn't want to know anything about sex, eggs, none of that, because I thought it had nothing to do with the crucifixion and the resurrection. And so now that word resurrection has multiple meanings to me. But all jokes aside, what I'm saying is that these fertility rituals with the eggs, the hidden eggs, to me now symbolize what the Megillah tells us about the child of Gabaya, of Yahshua and Miriam. It does say that he was fruitful and that he multiplied. And if you didn't see the video that I'm talking about, that story about the conception of Gabaya, Yahshua called him a bridge walker. I'm seeing now that maybe the colored eggs or whatever they do, and maybe not specifically what they're doing today, but it's still symbolic of the child that was conceived. So whether this ritual is pagan or not, wherever it came from, this whole Easter thing probably is in relation to this story in the Megillah. And it was like something that started to be practiced so that it wouldn't be forgotten. Hiding the eggs, maybe, and having your children go and look for them. I mean, I'm not advising that, but I'm saying that maybe it was originally symbolic of the gift that was being left to us by Yahshua. That's why everyone gets a little basket with some eggs in it, a little baby egg. And you know this place is called the Mother Ovum, and we all have our personal ovum. So I guess I don't have to be holding no grudges against all these people that do this anymore. I just am so grateful for the Megillah because reading it and understanding it has helped me to remove so many invisible grudges that were programmed into me from this system that we're raised in. And it's really freeing. The stories are really freeing. So if you don't have a Megillah, I expect you to get one. You better get one. And if you get one, send me a message in the comments. I got mine. And so I can just know that we're all on board here. All right, guys, let's get started. We got a lot to get through. This is the end of chapter 96 to 97 to get through the whole account of the crucifixion and the end of the Judas story. So bear with me. The video might be long. Apologize for that. Verse 132 in the Holy Godspell of chapter 96. In the middle of the night, various groupings of the companions departed to prearranged locations. Miriam and Sarah were escorted away by Joseph, the Ari, Matatiah, and Philip. In the morning, just before first light, Peter and Judas entered the encampment with Roman soldiers. The soldiers were pretending to hold Peter as if he were a prisoner. Though Yahshua was not fooled, Judas walked in front of the soldiers and said, "Lord, do not be afraid. These soldiers grabbed us after we left the encampment, but they only want to interview you." Judas then approached Yahshua and kissed him on the cheek in greeting. Because the soldiers had expected to find a full encampment based on Peter and Judas's earlier report, they had instructed Judas to identify Yahshua by kissing his cheek. Yahshua said to Judas, "Judas, you betrayed me with a kiss." At that point, the lead soldier slapped Yahshua hard across the face. Peter, as had been arranged ahead of time with the soldiers, because he wanted to give the impression that Peter was not part of the betrayal so that he could continue to infiltrate the companions. So Peter grabbed the sword from the soldiers that held him and shoved the soldier to the ground, pretending that he was about to strike the soldier. And as had been prearranged, two other soldiers grabbed Peter from behind and held him. Yahshua, seeing through this game, said, "Peter, even if your defense of me was authentic, I would not want to be defended by a sword. For lo, those that live by the sword will die by the sword." The soldiers searched the camp, and finding that the others had already departed, took Yahshua away. So that's the end of 96. We're going right on into 97 now. It says the arrest of Yahshua had been carefully coordinated between the Aaronite religious authorities and the Roman officials that were in charge of the occupying army. In a hasty trial in which Yahshua made no attempt to defend himself of the various trumped-up charges, the Aaronites claimed that Yahshua's offenses were enough to warrant death. They also made the point that according to the instructions of the Roman official, Pontius Pilate, only the Romans could, at this time of occupation, carry out a death penalty. Before pronouncing his sentence, Pilate said to Yahshua, "Will you not defend yourself from these charges? You are in my power. Unless you convince me otherwise, I will give these Aaronites what they want, your death. I control your destiny." Verse 8, Yahshua replied, "My judge is the Creator, not any man. The only power that I am in is that of love and wisdom. My destiny is controlled by universal truth, just as is your own destiny." Pilate replied, Truth is not universal. There are many different versions of truth. You think that I am not in control of your destiny? Watch this. Pilate said to a soldier, take him outside and give him 30 lashes. Then bring him back to me, and we will see if he is ready to answer my questions. After whipping Yahshua, the soldier brought him back to Pilate. When Yahshua still refused to answer questions about Nasarean safe houses or the current locations of his companions, Pilate said, take him in the morning to be crucified, along with the two thieves that are to be put to death. Let this spiritual king, as he is called, be crucified like a common criminal. As was his custom after ordering executions, Pilate then washed his hands, believing that by this act he absolved himself of any karmic consequences. This time he washed them twice as long, for behold, his wife had the previous night dreamed that this Nasarean was the Son of God and had begged Pilate to free him. The next morning, Yahshua, along with two common criminals, was taken to be crucified. Due to the injuries from his severe whipping, Yahshua could hardly walk and struggled under the weight of the cross that he was made to carry up the path to the place of crucifixion. A man named Zacchaeus, a tax collector, was moved by compassion to help Yahshua carry the cross. The soldiers permitted the assistance because they wanted to get up the hill in a hurry. Yahshua, despite his pain and exhaustion, looked into the eyes of Zacchaeus and said, Jaja will bless your life for this and every other act of kindness that you perform. You are a kind soul. Zacchaeus replied, the people despise me because I collect taxes. I would prefer to do other work, but I have no other training and 7 children to feed. Yeshua looked at the onlookers on the side of the road that they walked. He recognized a Nasarean lion of Zayin, disguised as a peasant. The lion had been about to offer to help carry the cross when Zacchaeus intervened. Yeshua replied, Jaja does not despise you. Then, speaking loud enough for the disguised lion of Zayin to hear, Yeshua said to Zacchaeus, tomorrow come to the spot where you first offered to help carry my cross, and a man will meet you there. He will see that you receive training as a carpenter, as his apprentice. Even in your training, he will pay you enough to feed your family. Yeshua looked into the eyes of the Nasarean lion who walked along the same road, listening. The lion who earned his daily bread as an extremely successful carpenter nodded affirmingly to Yeshua. Zacchaeus said, that would be a dream come true. Yeshua replied, the best dreams of the kind-hearted often do come true. And when they don't, it is because something even better is being brewed in the cauldron of Jaja. Verse 38, the location of the crucifixion was a hill that was called Golgotha, which means skull. As usual, when persons were crucified, a large crowd attended as if it were a great celebration, but because of that large crowd, 7 of Yahshua's companions, Miriam, Mother Mary, Johann, Magdalene, Joseph, Philip, and Yehuda, disguised themselves as common peasants so as to blend in with the crowd. The number of companions was kept to this 7 as to not attract attention. Neither Peter nor Judas attended the crucifixion. However, the evening before the crucifixion, the prophecy of Yahshua related to Peter and the rooster had begun to come true. That account now follows. So there's like 2 videos before this one where Yahshua told Peter that he was going to deny him. And this right here, verse 45, is the account where Peter actually did deny Yahshua 3 times. So we're on page 1000, chapter 97 of the Holy Godspell. It says, the day before the crucifixion, the morning that Yahshua had been arrested and brought to Pilate, Peter was still posing as a loyal friend of Yahshua. The soldiers still pretended that Peter was their prisoner along with Yahshua. Many citizens of Jerusalem saw Peter and Yahshua brought in together as prisoners. The word was spread that 2 Nazareans were arrested, the ringleader and one of his disciples. After that, Pilate privately paid Peter some coins and told the soldiers to let him go, but spread the word that he escaped. That night, while Peter, now accompanied by Judas, purchased some food in the market, a man said to Peter, are you not that follower of Yahshua the Nazarean? Peter said, "Absolutely not. I never knew him." Later that night, Peter and Judas went to stand by an outdoor fire where some musicians were playing. A man, recognizing Peter, asked, "Are you not the man that was arrested with the Nasarean?" Peter said, "Absolutely not. I never knew him." Early the next morning before sunrise on the day of the crucifixion, Judas and Peter were walking on the road, and a man said to Peter, "You look like that disciple of the Nasarean that will be crucified today." Peter said, "Absolutely not. I never knew him." Immediately after Peter spoke those words, behold, a rooster loudly crowed. Judas was truly shocked, for he had heard the prediction of Yahshua that this would happen. Judas said to Peter, "Perhaps this man truly is a prophet, and we have betrayed him." Peter replied, "I told you all along that he is not only a prophet, he is the Messiah that will be crucified. I will be his successor." Sarah Jalil says, "We know this story from the lips of Judas." Here is an account of how Judas came to report this story to Nathanael, the companion of the Lord. So we're at verse 67. Judas had been paid enough money by Pilate and various other parties to buy a farm. He went to the farm, and rather than feel happy about this largest payment of his career, he felt sick. He had terrible remorse and feelings of anxiety, so severe that for several days he got no sleep. Finally, he could take it no more and decided to hang himself, just as he began to hang from a rope. So I wanted to just interrupt this real quick because I was saying that this Judas story, I was amazed that Judas had been one of the ones that were baptized by John the Baptist, and he was also taught by the Lord and the Lady, and that he still, after all of that, being in that inner circle, that he didn't have a change of heart, and that he still, betrayed Yeshua, right? But right then, when he saw that prophecy of Yeshua came true, that Peter was going to deny him, you heard what he said. He said, "Perhaps this man truly is a prophet." So that whole time that he was learning and training with them, he must just had unbelief. Wow, I guess he didn't know. He didn't really believe that he was a prophet. But Peter knew the whole time. All right. So back at verse 70, it says that finally he is talking about Judas could take it no more and decided to hang himself. Just as he began to hang from a rope that he had tied to the branch of a tree, behold, Nathanael, one of the companions of the Lord and the Lady, arrived and cut the rope. He said to Judas, "I dreamed last night that I would find you here like this. I am here to tell you that if you sincerely repent your misdeeds, not just in regards to betraying Yeshua, but also your entire career of misdeeds, you can be freed from your internal torment." Judas said, "What will I do with my life without my former career?" Nathanael asked, "Have you ever done any work that made you feel good?" Judas thought a while. Then he replied, "When young, I enjoyed working on a farm, and though I was skimming some of the money for myself, I found it, to my great surprise, actually enjoying distributing the food to the poor according to the instructions of Yahshua." Nathanael suggested, "Why not be a farmer now that you own a farm?" Judas replied, "This farm was purchased with blood money. Evidently, I have developed enough of a conscience to actually regret what I have become, a spy and a paid killer." Nathanael said, "You can grow food to distribute to the poor." Judas agreed, and beginning to feel better, told Nathanael the account of Peter and the rooster. Judas never became a Nasarean, but he did become a farmer and did distribute his surplus crops to the poor. So here's the ending of the crucifixion story, verse 84. When Yeshua was crucified, the 7 of his companions in attendance, Miriam, Mother Mary, Johann, Magdala, Joseph, Philip, and Yehuda, were, as I previously reported, disguised as common peasants. Mary and Johann were in the front center of the crowd, with Magdala and Yehuda directly behind them. After the nails had been hammered into Yeshua's hands and feet, he looked with compassion on the 2 soldiers assigned the job. These 2 soldiers had gambled over which one would keep Yeshua's sandals. Speaking of them, Yeshua said, "Ja, I forgive these men, for they do not understand what they do." Then, looking into Mary's eyes, Yahshua said, Mother, behold your son, and nodded towards Johann. Then, looking into Johann's eyes, Yeshua said, Son, behold your mother, and nodded towards Mother Mary. Both Mary, both Mother Mary and Johann knew that this was Yeshua's way of asking Johann to take care of Mary after the crucifixion. While the soldiers were occupied with the crucifixion of the second of the two thieves that were also being crucified that day, Miriam placed a red rose and a white rose beneath Yeshua's cross. In her hair she still wore the blue rose that he had given her. As she placed the red and white rose beneath the crosses, several drops of Yeshua's blood dripped onto the blue rose in her hair. She saved and dried that rose, and for the remainder of her life used it when she initiated new disciples into the order of the Blue Rose, the order of longest reach within their mystery schools. After the crucifixion, she collected the red and the white roses, both of which had drops of Yeshua's blood on them, and dried them. She used those roses when initiating future disciples into the order of the red rose and the order of the white rose. Verse 96. Though these orders had existed before the incarnations of the Lord and the Lady, they were reorganized and made new after the crucifixion. For behold, now these orders would be based on the new edition of the Megillah that would include the teachings of Yahshua and Miriam. Having driven the nails into the hands and the feet of both the thieves, one thief on each side of Yahshua, his cross being in the center, one of the soldiers, in obedience to the instructions of Pilate, nailed a sign above the head of Yahshua. The sign read, Behold, the spiritual king of the Nasareans. The soldiers then, also in obedience to the instruction of Pilate, placed a weaved crown of thorns on Yahshua's head. This was meant to belittle Yahshua in the eyes of the onlookers. One of the two thieves that was crucified with Yahshua began to mock the Lord, saying, Hey, spiritual king, your Nazarean God either does not exist or has forsaken you. Otherwise, have your God take you and us down from these crosses and heal our wounds. Because the words were spoken in a mocking tone, the other thief said, Do not mock this man. He is an honest, spiritually orientated man. He does not deserve death for simply being a Nasarean. You and I are third-time caught thieves and deserving of death. I say again, do not mock this innocent Nasarean. The nicer of the two thieves then spoke directly to Yahshua, saying, Is there life after death for thieves such as us, your two companions in crucifixion? Yahshua replied, All souls have eternal life. You will each be born again and will have the opportunity to repent your past mistakes, learn from them, and move on and upward on the spiral ladder of ascent. Amen, amen, amen. All right, that is the end of the count of the crucifixion. Okay, but there is more. If you got a Megillah, you know chapter 98 and what happens, where it's titled Yahshua is placed in Joseph's tomb and then moved by Nazareans to another location to be prepared for his cleansing of the vortex, where souls first go after death. That's the title of 98. I'm telling you, man, I am so excited to have this in-depth information of what this whole thing was about. Thanks, guys. I'll be back soon. Alrighty. Bye.